What's up, YouTube? It's your boy, the franchise guy, coming at you again with another episode of Madden 19 My Career, featuring your boy Chance Bishop, taking on the Lions, a team that if you've been following us since the beginning of this series, the Lions gave us a lot of trouble a lot of the time. And by a lot of trouble, I mean they knocked us out of the playoffs, prevented us going back-to-back in our first year. They beat us opening day the next year. I don't know, this Lions team just was not an easy team for us to beat for some reason. Could not tell you why. We just could not beat the Detroit Lions. I mean, there's a reason why they won Super Bowl in the first season. I mean, not because of Vince over here, the tight end who averaged, I don't know, a little over 9 yards a catch. But Carson Wentz, though, and the Eagles taking on Mitch Trubisky of all quarterbacks. Oh boy, what a quarterback he is. I mean, he is not the Detroit Lions quarterback, actually. Matt Stafford is the quarterback for the Detroit Lions. Not sure how Mitch Trubisky ended up over there, but that's a pretty wild thing to think of. You think that, I don't know, what do you think? You think that Trubisky would ever end up on a division rival like that? I mean, it's like when Donovan McNabb went to the Redskins, but the thing is, Donovan McNabb was washed up by them. No one cared for Donovan McNabb anymore. He threw, like, what, 5 interceptions a game he played against the Eagles? Not a great thing for him. Not a great look coming back to play the team that drafted you in the first round in the late 90s. I mean, hey, Eagles fans are not the nicest people in the world. I'm aware of that because I'm an Eagles fan, and Eagles fans aren't even nice to Eagles fans. Like, have you ever had a disagreement with an Eagles fan on, like, social media? Have you ever thought a trade or a player signing or an extension was a little weird or wrong, and it wasn't the popular opinion? Hey, yeah, no, you're an idiot if you don't think what the masses think. I mean, people still get into fights about Bryce Harper. I mean, different sport right there, but same premise. We'll get into arguments about Bryce Harper still. People think that, oh, Bryce Harper's overrated, yada yada. Oh my god, who cares? The Phillies felt he was worth 25 million a year for someone who can hit 280, 290 and hit 35, 40 home runs. If he hits 260, 275 and he hits 33 home runs, hits 110 RBIs, gets slugs over. I'm not sure actually how slugging works. I'm not want to say a number. Has an OPS above 750. I believe that's the correct one. I think slugging is like the one that you'd slug like 400. I think that's what that one is, but I know the OPS is the big one, where it's like you have to have a minimum 750 to actually be good. But yeah, so like, if the Phillies can do that, why can't the Eagles do that? Why can't, I don't know. I think I kind of spoke wrong there, but if you think wrongly about a popular player or popular anything, you're wrong. I mean, problem with sports fan bases is you won't talk about how gaming communities being super toxic. You want to talk about how Rocket League is one of the most toxic fan bases, or Destiny 2 is toxic, or how, I don't know, Madden can be toxic, Call of Duty being toxic. But have you ever actually really thought about the same thing for professional sports? That just because they're not a game doesn't mean the communities aren't toxic. Like, look at the Dallas Cowboys and the New England Patriots. Some of the most toxic fan bases in the world. The entire Boston region for fan bases is toxic. You see how they act when they win. You see how they act when they lose. They use racial slurs towards PK Subban, who's one of the best defensemen in the NHL currently, at a Boston Bruins game. I don't know, but you want to knock on Philly fans for for throwing snowballs at Santa Claus, when if you ever read the book, A Snowball Chance in Hell, which goes over all of these, I don't know, things in Philadelphia history where it talks about a battery at JD Drew. It talks about snowballs at Santa Claus. And it's like, oh, well, those snowballs because Santa Claus was drunk. No, he wasn't. The guy who played Santa Claus wasn't 21 years old yet. And and in his words, he went to see the U.S. play every Sunday with his family. That he lived in a time that if he were to ask for a beer before the age of 21, he would have been publicly beaten at the stadium because that's how things were. We want to talk about the battery at JD Drew. Oh boy, some one person threw a battery at JD Drew. Okay, that happens. You get idiot fans who do stupid things, but just because it's Philadelphia, it gets blown out of proportion. I mean, have you ever thought to wonder why 99.8% of players who play in Philadelphia love Philadelphia, who say Philadelphia is one of the best cities they've ever played in? That's not just for Philly, that's not just for like the Phillies for Philly. That's for the Flyers, that's for the Eagles, the Sixers. Like when those teams fan bases are passionate, they're passionate and they will love you to the day you die. I mean, you don't really think about that not one person who plays for Philadelphia ever hates playing in Philadelphia. I mean, Jason Worth said he refused to play for the Mets because how much he was loyal to Philadelphia. Yes, he signed with the Nationals because they offered him the most money, but he would never play for the Mets because the Mets were the rival. I mean, you get players like Brandon Brooks who bring up the whole point that, if you have everyone saying that Philadelphia is this god awful place, why does everyone love Philadelphia? Everyone who plays for Philadelphia loves Philadelphia. I mean, but then again, you get that 0.2% of players who don't like Philadelphia, usually because they're pretty bad. Look at Billy Wagner. Billy Wagner was very soft skinned, and every time he hit 100 miles an hour, they booed him. And he was upset by that. He was offended by that because he didn't throw 100 every pitch. He got booed. I mean, really? You're gonna get upset by that. You're gonna have a decent go at in Philadelphia, and you're gonna get upset because they're booing you every time you don't throw 100. I mean, really? That unless you're really bad and that Philly gives you a big contract to, be a big time contender and you just blow up in their face like a Namdi Asamoah and Ila Brizgalov. I mean, there are plenty and plenty and plenty of players who Philly has handed out big contracts to, and they have just gone by the wayside of it. Like it just happens all the time. Don't know why it happens. Like, all right, let's go back to this one former Eagles head coach named Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly was a big fan favorite for about one season, and then he ran the team into the ground for the next two. You know, I mean, it's what happens. It's what he does. He came out and he ran the team into the ground. He came in and did all sorts of things. But, Chip Kelly gave some pretty bad contracts out because he forced his way into being GM. He put Howie Roseman in the dog pound just so he can be Bill Belichick. I mean, every time it works out, everyone tries to be a Bill Belichick. It never works out because they're not Bill Belichick. He gave Byron Maxwell a huge contract extension. Or I guess he just gave me a huge contract in general. He gave DeMarco Murray a huge contract. And he traded away franchise running back LaShawn McCoy. Guess what? For a bust of a player who's coming off a torn ACL. And sure, Kiko Alonso might have been the most consistent of all three of those players, but he only played like 10 games, only started like 4 of them. So, I mean, yeah, unless you really mess up in Philly, where you're given money you don't live up to, like DeMarco Murray was given the King's ransom to come to Philly out of Dallas. You know what Dallas does in response? They draft Ezekiel Elliott. They replaced DeMarco Murray. DeMarco Murray is now out of the league though. His body can't hold up with the running, the hitting, all that stuff. Because the Eagles' system of running is not the same as the Cowboys. The Cowboys line up out of the I formation. Lines up out of the I, goes has a fullback, or in their case, a Jason Witten, plug up a linebacker to let Murray run through, build up steam. Guess what the Eagles run? They run slants. They run pitches. Something that LaShawn McCoy in his speed accelerated at. But when you expect DeMarco Murray, someone who has run up the middle his entire career, you know, he ran up the middle his entire career. But now it's like, hey, we get it. You're not laterally gifted. You're more of a north-south runner, not an east-west runner. We're gonna make you run east-west now. Something that he's never done before. Something he's never had to do before. But it's whatever. It's something. I don't know. I really could not tell you how people have yet to get over the whole Philly thing. But it's like more recent. Look at Jake Arrieta. Jake Arrieta got 3 years, 75. Okay, so that's easily break down 25 a year. He's not only criticized the fans, he's criticized his coaches, he's criticized his teammates, he's criticized everyone but himself. Jake Arrieta can go out there, throw 5 pitches, and let 5 home runs, and he'd blame the defense. He'd blame the pitching coach. He'd blame the bullpen catching instructor. He's saying, oh, the wind, or the fans were distracting, or if we had fans who came out and actually cared about this team, I would have pitched better. I mean, that's not how it works. That's not how sports teams should work. That's not how professional athletes work. You don't come out and blame everyone but yourself when you're the problem. It's weird. I was super excited when Philly signed Jake Arrieta, because I'd be like, oh great, you put him and Aaron Nola together, it's gonna be a 1-2 combo right there. It's gonna be a great 1-2 punch. And it's turned out to everything but that, just because he has not done anything. He's regressed to the way he was when he was first with the Cubs and he was with the Orioles. He's nowhere near that Cy Young caliber player he was when he won the Cy Young, like that fluke year where he went 22 and 6, 4, 5, I don't know, something like that, 22 and 4. But guess what? I don't know. People are wild. You know, good old Jake Arrieta, good old Byron Maxwell and Kiko Alonso and Chip Kelly. People that come out here and they think they're the greatest at what they do, and they're not. They really aren't. But as long as you don't try and overstep your boundaries with being you, being the athlete you are in Philly, Philly will leave you alone for the better. It's not a death sentence to go to Philly. I mean, when the Sixers are bad, Andre Kirilenko refused to play for the Sixers. Literally retired from the NBA because he didn't want to play for the Sixers. Just because the team was bad. Andre Kirilenko had no room to negotiate. Andre Kirilenko was like in his mid-30s. He was on the twilight of his career. He should be lucky that people still wanted him to play on their teams. But no, he was too worried that Philly was going to be too hard of a city for him. So he got up and retired after being fined by the team for like a month straight because he didn't show up to practices or anything. Which I think is just poor running of the Sixers. But I don't know. If you guys enjoyed this episode, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. If you guys missed any episodes, check the playlist down below. We are coming to super close to the end of this series. Madden 20 is coming out so quick. Thanks on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace out, and stay classy, I guess.